welcome. I'm Chaiti, Narula, and you're watching the Policybazaar show, your weekly stop for news and views related to the world of insurance. Insurance is evolving at a rather rapid pace. While the past few months have focused immensely on standardized term products and innovations in health insurance sector, the regulator, the IRDAI, is ensuring that motor insurance evolves at a similar pace too. And today's topic is impact of recent motor insurance guidelines on the consumers. Joining me to understand this in detail, we've got Sajja Praveen Chowdary, who's the business head of motor insurance, Policybazaar.com. Sajja is a marketing professional with about 11 plus years of experience spread across business management, blended with product and technology management, business development, project management, all of this in the e-commerce products and services space. Managing corporate relationships as well is one of his big fortes, and marketing of a wide range of financial products and services. His varied interests are to utilize his understanding and experience in developing and marketing of products and services and brands. Welcome to the show as always, Sajja. What a pleasure to have you with us.
Thanks, Chaiti. Thanks a lot.
So, Sajja, let's start off. Recently, the regulator IRDAI has issued an exposure draft to link motor insurance premiums with traffic violations. Can you please elaborate on the draft and how would this really work? Everyone would be very keen to know, given the kind of fines one is imposing.
Absolutely, Chaiti. So basically, IRDA has formed a working group committee in the past in order to examine, how should we actually link, if at all we should link or not, and how should we link a traffic violation to insurance premium, as it's done in the Western countries, and what would the impact of it on, a better, safer roads kind of in India. So the way the draft today says is kind of, there are traffic violations that happen today on the roads, and there are kind of systems which have been put in place by various state governments and the central government, which are in terms of, properly noting this down into a system or properly capturing this in the system in terms of what kind of violation and who has done at one point of time and so on and so forth. So in order to utilize this data and kind of, categorize this data into various types of offenses, and then basis this, link this to premium in terms of, bringing out one more section within the motor insurance premium, which is exactly going to be traffic violation premium. And this is going to be added over and above your regular premium, basis what kind of violations that you've done in the last 24 months. And, there are certain points that are going to be given, and then the premium is going to be determined basis this. So in case if there are traffic violations that your car has or, will be having, then automatically this data would be captured in the central system, and this data would be utilized when you are renewing your motor insurance. And obviously your motor insurance can increase basis, in case if there are any traffic violations at your end. The way it is there are different kinds of violations, right? So the report has categorized them into three categories. One is something which is a traffic hazard, and the other is something which is related to just compliance. The third is something which is related to just pollution norms and various other things. So right now they excluded the compliance and pollution norms. So let's say if it's not a traffic hazard, but it's just a compliance kind of a thing, or pollution, they're not linking that to traffic or a traffic violation premium or to motor insurance premium right now. They might look at it in future. What they're looking at right now is only anything that's going to be a pure traffic hazard, which means you kind of, creating some problem either for other travelers, or you might be, creating, or you might be not making the roads not so much safer. Then these kind of hazards are categorized into different buckets in terms of, what is a minor and what is a major in terms of its created, right? And every kind of hazard is given a certain set of points, okay? And which means whenever, let's assume you have an offense or you commit an offense, then that offense will be recorded against your car number, along with obviously the driving license number and various other things. And obviously this car will accumulate so many points. So let's assume in the last 6 months you accumulated say 50 points due to three types of different hazards, which might be coming at about 30 points, 20 points, and say 10 points. You might have accumulated say 60 points. Now, whenever you are renewing your policy next, so you will be charged a premium against these 60 points. And there is a table which has been given, also recommending for X number of points, Y amount of premium is what is to be charged, and so on and so forth. And this will get added to your motor insurance premium.
All right. And also, when is this expected to be rolled out? There seems to be a buzz around running a pilot program in Delhi first.
Yeah, so basically, right now, I think Chaiti, as I said, right, the working group report has been put out for public comments. So IID would look at into the public comments and then kind of figure out what would be the, if there are any tweakings that are required in terms of how the entire system has been designed by the working group committee and how would it be implemented. And then probably, it might be about 6 months down the line is what you can expect. But then once it comes in, yes, the reason they put in as, that since the Delhi traffic police has been able to implement a system where they're today categorizing all of these offenses and they're recording all of these offenses in a systematic way. Hence, they're planning to do this pilot in the state of Delhi to
Yeah.
start with. But having said that, the report also mentions that if there is any state government which is ready with such a system, and if they're okay to utilize this, the state government can get into this pilot program as well.
Now, what happens in case of minor offences, and what is the consequence of repeat offences as well? What is the kind of bearing it would have on the premium when I go for renewal at the end of the year as well?
So basically, as I said, Chaiti, there are different offences which have been categorized, right? So let's assume something like, say, drunken driving is one of the dangerous things that are there on the road. So that might accumulate you about 100 points. Whereas something like, a very small thing which might be, driving without seat belt or few things, that might not accumulate as much as 100 points, but that might accumulate, say, 20 or 30 points, kind of, as an example, right? This is how offences are categorized, and then every offence will get you that X number of points. So minor offences will generally get you lower points. The major offences will get you higher points. Now, having said that, the concept of, if let's assume there's someone who's creating repeat offences, let's assume you're not wearing your seatbelt and you're going to accumulate 30 points, and now you're going to do it 3 times, then you're going to accumulate 30 points in the first go, and second instance you're going to get double the points, which means 30 into 60 points, and then in the third offence you're going to get 3 into 30, 90 points. So let's say if you accumulate, if you do these offences 3 times, then you had 90 plus 60 plus 30, which means your payment is 180 points. Versus one time drunken driving, which you have accumulated 100 points.
Yeah.
And let's say, so on and so forth, right? So all of these are taken care of in that. And as we said, this is just a pilot, right? Nothing is perfect in the first go. So predominantly, this is how they've taken care of. That minor offences are also taken care of. At the same time, if someone is doing n number of minor offences, that is also taken care of. And if someone has, had just one level of major offense, kind of, that is also taken care of.
Now, my question here is, if somebody has committed an offense while driving, is it likely that the premium is going to be affected for a lifetime, or is there a cut-off time to it, or is it going to be considered yearly? How is this likely to work?
So basically, Chaiti, the working group committee has recommended right now that at any point of time, whenever you're renewing your motor insurance, the last 24 months points are going to be taken into consideration. So the moment you get into the 25th month, the offense created, minus 25th month or minus 20 before the ones before 24 months from today, maybe, will not be considered. But this is how pilot is going to be, right? As I said, it might change in future, but this is how it is going to be. And anyway, since in the pilot is going to run for the next 12 months whenever it is launched, so I think for now it can be considered that any expenses in the last 24 months is going to make a bearing on the premium.
So I'm guessing this is not applicable just to a specific category of vehicles and applies to all then? And what are the rules like and the premium in the different category of vehicles? Are we seeing fluctuating premium? What is the draft say about this?
But now, within this report, the vehicles are categorized into 2 categories primarily. One is the 2-wheelers and the 3-wheelers. They have been categorized into one segment, and the rest, all of the other vehicles, which is the 4-wheeler, private cars or taxis or the other commercial vehicles, all of them have been categorized into the other segment. So there are primarily these 2 segments, and anyone with, and every, both the segments have a different premium bearing kind of a thing with respect to the number of points that you might accumulate. And that's how they're going to be charged. For example, if I were to take an example of 2-wheeler, let's assume if you committed offenses which might lead you to the maximum. There's obviously today they've also capped it to a certain extent. They're not saying this will just continue. The premium will continue to just rise and rise and rise. There's obviously a certain amount of premium where they've capped it. So for a 2-wheeler, the maximum amount of premium that you might pay extra is about 750 rupees in a year as a traffic violation premium. And similarly, on the private car and the commercial vehicle side, the maximum amount that it goes to is about 1,500 rupees right now. Obviously, for a normal cars where, you might pay 6,000, 7,000 rupees, 1,500 rupees is going to be definitely be higher. But commercial vehicles, yes, 1,500 rupees might not be that larger because, generally commercial vehicles have a, especially the goods vehicles and others have a premium of about 20,000 to 40,000 rupees in a year. So on 20,000 or 40,000 rupees base, the 1,500 rupees base premium might not be so effective. But
Yeah.
again, as I said, right, it's only going to be pilot or this is only going to be for now.
Now, coming to private vehicle motor insurance, Sajja, usually when people have new cars, they go in for zero debt comprehensive policies when they go in for renewal. But the older ones, what happens to those? The regulator has been notifying the motor third-party premium rates every year, and they're the ones going in for third-party, and they're more likely to go in for the third-party insurance as well. What should the customers expect on third-party premiums this year now? Do you expect the prices to go up, down, or remain the same as the current year, given that 2020 was dominated by the pandemic and there was minimum movement of vehicles on the roads as well?
So yes, so IRDA has been notifying third-party premiums every year since 2011, right? And last year, obviously, there was no change in premiums because there was pandemic and then there were vehicles not moving on the roads and so on and so forth. Having said that, I think the traffic has reached almost to the stage of what it was pre-corona or pre-COVID, almost to that stage if you look at least in the metropolitan cities. So, and even if you're looking at the claims ratio or the claims kind of, they've also reached almost to the level of the pre-COVID levels. So I think we are at a stage when we get into April. Definitely that calls for there's obviously the year-on-year inflation in terms of overall costs and even the minimum wages that get into picture when a third-party claim is settled. And as a result, I guess this year we would be expecting or we would be seeing most probably a rise in third-party premiums. Given that obviously whatever has gone by as a year is different, but then that doesn't mean that next year is going to be similar, right? Because the
Yeah.
vehicles have started on the roads and so on and so forth. So there's most likely going to be an increase on the third-party premiums, but again, we'll have to wait and see till the time regulator comes back on it.
Okay, it's time now for a short commercial break. Stay with us. We're going to be right back on the Policy Bazaar show. We are in conversation with Sajja, Praveen. We're discussing motor insurance. Welcome back. You're watching the Policy Bazaar show with me, Chaiti, Narula. Today we're discussing the impact of recent motor insurance guidelines on consumers along with Sajja Praveen Chowdary from Policybazaar.com. Sajja, coming to some developments that we have discussed in the past, we saw usage-based insurance launched under the IRDAI's Sandbox initiative. What has been the response to it, and has it become a mainstream product for consumers?
So basically, the response has been wonderful there, especially the limited kilometers products that we're speaking about when you spoke about usage-based insurance, where you can, instead of paying a premium for the regular way, you can select whether you want to drive the vehicle you can drive the vehicle for 2,500 kilometers or 5,000 kilometers a year, and accordingly pay a lower premium, right? So
Yeah.
the response has been actually wonderful in that segment, and there are a couple of insurers, I guess. One is Bajaj Allianz and Bharti AXA, whom we've done this with as well. And I think, given there's obviously a 50 lakh rupees premium limit given under the Sandbox initiative that's been completed, and what we understand is some of the insurers have even asked the regulator or applied to regularize this product. So the response has been wonderful, and especially, I guess, given that it was a corona period where people were not going to take out the vehicles, it has been much more tremendous kind of. But obviously, there are these consumers who even today also, given there would be COVID or there would not be COVID, there are people who would not, use the car beyond, particular X number of kilometers. And hence it is expected to be good. And once probably the regulator comes out with regularizing these products, we look at this becoming a mainstream. That's still awaited there, however.
Are there any particular segments of customers choosing this particular product, Sajja? In your opinion, which segment of consumers should opt for this particular product when it comes back?
Yeah, I think, as I said, right, because there was the entire COVID lockdown period when these products came out, there are clear-cut segments where consumers might find these products much better for them or suitable to them. For example, if we're speaking about a product which is limited kilometers in terms of, let's assume today you have a vehicle insurance which you can buy, and there is no limitation on the number of kilometers that you drive in a year. But there are these products which say, if you're going to drive only 2,500 kilometers or 5,000 kilometers, then you get a lower premium. So this is useful for those people who, generally might stay closer to their office, or they don't use their vehicle too much, or they have two vehicles in their house. One vehicle is for the regular use, and the other vehicle is only for generally the elders in the house or parents whenever they want to go out. Occasionally, it's taken out, kind of, right? Which means it will be below 5,000 kilometers in a year, and that vehicle might run about roughly 10,000 kilometers in a year. but 10 to 15,000 kilometers in a year. But the rest of the vehicles, I think there are a lot of vehicles which run below 5,000 kilometers in a year. For such customers, this product would be wonderfully suitable. And similarly, there's another segment of product which is like the Edelweiss switch, which is primarily what it says is you can turn on your insurance whenever you want, and you can turn off your insurance whenever you're not using the vehicle. This is primarily for people like who's staying in metros. Let's assume someone who stays in the Mumbai and who uses the local
Yeah.
train daily office, but they use their car extensively on weekends, probably to go to a Lonavala or a Mumbai
Yeah.
or a Pune. Or similarly, people in Delhi who might use the metro during the weekdays, and on weekends, they might want to travel outside, kind of. Which means you're using only 2 days in a week, which means roughly 100 days in a year. So you can turn on your insurance from those 100 days and turn off for the rest of the days, and accordingly, you save a lot of premium, right?
Right. There seems to be one more draft that has come out recently that was in the news stating customers need to pay for insurance separately at the time of buying a car. What exactly is this, and how does this really impact the consumers?
So this is the other regulations related draft where I think the working group was made to review the MISP Motor Insurance Service Provider regulations, and that working group was also submitted the report, and the same thing has been put out to public for comments. Primarily, what happens, what has been observed is that whenever someone is buying a brand new vehicle, whether it's a car or a two-wheeler or a commercial vehicle, whatever it is, it's been observed, I think, by the working group as well, that the customer is paying the entire amount in a single shot. Let's assume you're buying a car, and the dealer says 8.5 lakh rupees is what you need to pay, which includes premium and everything. So it's paid as 8.5 lakh rupees to the dealer, and then from there the insurance premium is segregated to the insurance company, and so on and so forth. But what I think the working group committee says is that has led to not having so much of transparency in terms of what is the insurance premium and what is the non-insurance premium related car value or other things, kind of, right? So they said ideally in order to bring transparency there for consumers from what they're paying actually for the insurance premium, and then they decide whether they want to buy that or whether they want to buy a different type of plan. So that's where this entire thing has come from, saying basically, let's assume out of 8.5 lakh, if 50,000 rupees is your insurance premium and 8 lakh rupees is for the car, then you have to pay 8 lakh rupees separately and this 50,000 rupees separately. It can't happen that you pay 8.5 lakh rupees in one go. Because what that might mean is the customer is able to, when they're able to see that this 50,000 rupees is what they're paying for insurance, they might realize that this is not the plan that they would want, or there's a different kind of plan that they would want, and accordingly they might be able to choose, kind of, right? So that's what this speaks about.
Right. Sajja, coming to brand new vehicles, there was a change in the type of policies allowed in case of brand new car and bike buyers in August. Can you also elaborate on what are the kind of policies that are available for brand new vehicle buyers at the moment?
Today, if you're buying a brand new vehicle, then there are two options that are available for you. You either want a third party only policy or you want a comprehensive policy. If you want a third party only policy, for a private car, you have to buy a minimum of 3 years third party. And for a two-wheeler, you have to buy a minimum of 5 years third party. So you have a 3-year third party for a private car and a 5-year third party for a brand new two-wheeler. Similarly, if you're someone who cares about the own damage side of it, which means if the vehicle gets damaged, also that also has to be covered, which means a comprehensive policy. Then you have, in case of private cars, 1 year own damage plus a 3-year third party. Okay, because the 3-year third party has been made by compulsory by the Supreme Court. Hence, you have a 1 year own damage plus 3-year third party. And similarly, on the two-wheeler side, you have 1 year own damage plus a 5-year third party. So these are the policies which are available especially for the brand new vehicle buyers at this point of time.
Now, vehicle insurance, Sajja, was in the news a few months ago with reports stating that around half of the 20 crore plus registered vehicles in India are uninsured. Is there any specific reason for this number being so high? Is this because such uninsured vehicle owners do not think about their vehicle damage and also the fine of 2,000 rupees in case of being caught?
Chaiti, I guess it's more to do with it's not exactly only with the own damage part of it, while a bit of it is related to own damage. See, vehicle insurance primarily has two parts, right? One is the own damage component and the other is the third party component.
Yeah.
Own damage component takes care of your vehicle. In case if your vehicle is damaged in an accident, then the own damage component comes to your rescue and basically takes care of your vehicle. Third party component is something which is mandatory for a vehicle to run on the roads. That is not going to take care of your vehicle, but it is going to take care of your liabilities in case you go and hurt someone or damage someone's property.
Yeah.
So primarily, I guess, while there are some people who think in the older vehicles, their own damage, they really don't care about much of the damages that are happening there. But in those people who are not insuring even for third party, they don't understand the intricacies or they don't understand the impact of an accident happening in the real life, right? So, impact of an accident is not about a small scuffle here and there. The impact of an accident can go as large as let's assume you're a bike, you're a person
Yeah.
who's a delivery person. You just keep delivering small say either a food or from a restaurant or whatever, and you don't insure a vehicle, and your salary might be about say 10,000, 15,000 rupees a month, uh, and you don't insure your vehicle to save that 750 rupees or 800 rupees, what otherwise you might need to pay for insurance. If you go and if there is an accident that happens on some day in the late in the night where you're delivering food and you didn't observe that someone was crossing the road and you go and you dash that person, and let's say that person passes away, okay, now that family, if that person is the only breadwinner for the family, and let's assume that person was earning say 25,000 rupees or say 50,000 rupees, and tomorrow there's no one to take care of that family, suddenly what you're doing is you're pulling a family from above poverty line to a below poverty line, assuming that if they don't have anything else, right?
Yeah.
Now, had you had that third party insurance in place, the third party policy would have taken care of these kind of things. Now, I think people don't understand this in detail, and that's one of the things, why pay for that 750 rupees or say 1,000 rupees, why spend on it? But if there's some kind of understanding that starts to evolve around this, I'm sure people would really understand that this can happen with anyone on any given day,
Yeah.
and this which and we also see today that there are people who actually realize this only when that accident happens, when they're in that spot that the vehicle had an accident. Now you really can't determine whether your vehicle was at fault or the other party was at fault also in most of these scenarios. Then in such a scenario, what do? You just get stuck there. And I think with rules also changing, I think there's also one set of rules which came in the past where in case if the vehicle is running without insurance and then you hit someone or you damage someone else's property, I think there have been some powers which have been given to some people where you can impound the vehicle and then kind of if the owner is not able to pay for that family or pay for the damage, then you sell off that vehicle and give that money to the victim's family or victim kind of. So with time, I guess this is bound to improve. I guess it needs a lot more talk. It has to be more and more spoken about and advertised about and kind of made aware about. People have to be made aware, and that's where this entire uninsured segment is going to get into the insured area.
Absolutely. And that's the whole point of this show as well, right? To spread awareness about the kind of insurance products that are there and the repercussions in case you do not pick up insurance. And that's the knowledge that we are giving away on this show too. You at Policybazaar and us at India Today coming together and doing this show is that step in the right direction. Well, those are some very valuable insights today, Sajja. We hope that all our viewers have taken down notes as well. I'd like to again thank Sajja Praveen Chowdary for joining us today to help understand more about the developments in the motor insurance sector and its impact on the consumer. That's all for this week. Keep watching the Policybazaar show. This is Chaiti Narula signing off.